We have just 5 weeks to go in the NFL season, so I thought it was a good time to take a look at the Tank-A-Thon Standings, baby. It's the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Oh, yeah, it is indeed the Jake Asman Football Show. We're presented by BetUS. Right off the top, let's let you know that right now, BetUS has a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus with your second and third deposit. So start playing right now. BetUS is my go-to sportsbook. And if you've been watching the Jake Asman Football Show, we've been giving out winners. Both Cole Thompson and myself each went 3-0 this past week. I have been red hot. Cole is back on track. So if you've been taking our picks and making the same ones at BetUS, you've been winning money, baby. We'll make more picks during Cole's appearance on the football show this Friday. But shout out to BetUS for being our sports book. They have every sport, not just football, but they also, of course, have the NBA, NHL, boxing, UFC, you name it. BetUS has it. Shout out to them for being our presenting sponsor. Let's talk about the Tank-A-Thon standings, shall we? Look, the bottom line is this. We still have a lot, and I mean a lot, of football to be played. But if you take a look at the top 10 of this draft, there are a lot of different scenarios that could unfold. You could see my football team is highlighted in green, the New York Jets. They're at 6 right now. In front of them, you have the Panthers at 5, New England at 4, the Giants at 3, Vegas at 2, Jacksonville's at 1. Right behind the Jets, you have Tennessee at 7, Cleveland at 8, New Orleans at 9, Cincinnati at 10. But you look at how things could play out here. Is there a path for both New York football teams to be picking 1 and 2 in the draft? It's not crazy. We just watched the Raiders go out there and nearly beat the Chiefs. New England nearly beat the Colts. Carolina nearly beat the Buccaneers. You look at the schedules for both New York teams. The Giants don't have Dexter Lawrence anymore. And the Giants down the stretch look like a team that is completely checked out. Now, they showed some fight on Thanksgiving, but they don't look like a team that is exactly playing hard down the stretch here. The Giants play the Saints, the Ravens, the Falcons, the Colts, and the Eagles. They got to play those games without Dexter Lawrence. And the only game that looks easy is maybe the Eagles game the last week of the season if Philadelphia is resting their starters. That might be the only game that's quote-unquote easy for the Giants. Looking at some of the other teams, the Raiders' schedule is a difficult schedule. They're a sneaky contender to be right there in the top 2. They play the Bucks, the Falcons, the Saints, and the Chargers. So that Saints game feels winnable for the Raiders. Tampa, Atlanta, and the Chargers, that's not going to be easy. Then you have Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I think, has a chance to actually win a couple games. Now, this is dependent on the health of Trevor Lawrence because Mac Jones, I don't think, is any good. But you look at Jacksonville's schedule, it's much more conducive to some potential wins. They play the Titans, they play the Jets, and we'll get to the Jets coming up here. They play the Raiders, they play the Titans again, and then they play the Colts. I don't think Jacksonville is going to finish with the number 1 pick, even with Mac Jones. Well, I think Lawrence is clearly better. I do think Mac Jones capable of winning a game or two there. Once again, Jacksonville plays the following teams to end the year: Tennessee, the Jets, the Raiders, the Titans again, and then the Colts. You're telling me they couldn't split with Indy or split with Tennessee, and maybe beat the Colts? Maybe beat the Raiders? So that's where I bring up the New York Jets. The Jets have 5 games remaining. Their schedule is really difficult. They play the Dolphins this week. They're a 6.5-point underdog at BetUS right now. The Jets' remaining games feature Miami not once but twice. The last games at MetLife in the cold. We know Miami's not good in the cold, but, I mean, the Jets can lose to anyone this year, as they've shown. They also play the Jaguars, which that game could have major draft implications, as we just outlined. They play the Rams, and then they play the Bills. If the Jets don't beat the Jaguars, couldn't they lose out? I think the answer is yeah. I think they could lose out. So all of a sudden, the New York Jets could be looking at a top 3 pick in this draft, maybe a top 2 pick in this draft. And then that sets up a fascinating conversation. Do you take one of the top quarterbacks coming out in Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward? I think if you're the Jets, you have no choice. You got a new regime coming in. Aaron Rodgers won't be here next year. You have Tyrod Taylor as your bridge quarterback, and it's all set up nicely. I think we could be looking at a scenario where both New York teams could be picking 1 and 2 to start the draft if the Jets lose that Jaguars game. Because that's the only game I see the Jets winning. Now, that said, the Jets typically win a game they're not supposed to late and mess up their draft positioning. We've seen this a lot. So I could see it. I don't think it's crazy. I really don't. But I just outlined it, right? Giants would pick 3rd if the draft was held today. The Jaguars 2-10, the Raiders 2-10 are in front of them because they have a worse strength of schedule. Jets 3-9 would pick 6th. Patriots 3-10 and the Panthers 3-9 are in front of them, in addition to the aforementioned teams. Jacksonville's schedule: Titans, Jets, Raiders, Titans again, Colts. I see some wins coming. Raiders schedule: aside from that game against the Jags, Bucks, Falcons, Saints, Chargers. Giants, already mentioned them, just a recap. Saints, Ravens, Falcons, Colts, Eagles. No Dexter Lawrence. Only game that looks maybe winnable, perhaps, is that game against the Eagles if Philly's not playing any of their starters last week of the year. I think we're getting New York picking 1 and 2 in this draft. And how fascinating would that be? Now, you never know. We see draft orders change all the time this time of year, but I figured it was a good time with 5 games to go to take a look at the Tank-A-Thon standings here to start this show. That's what we're looking at, folks. It's kind of crazy, but there's a path to New York, I believe, picking at the top of the draft. That's the type of year it's been for these franchises. Crazy. Couple things I want to hit on here on the Jake Asman Football Show. One of them is Jet related. As I see Aaron Rodgers is doing his weekly hit right now on the Pat McAfee program. So the Jets will start Aaron Rodgers at quarterback against the Dolphins on Sunday. And there are people saying, why? Bench him. Bench him. The team's 3-9. Play Tyrod Taylor. And my answer, really, not even an answer, right? People saying, play Tyrod Taylor. My question to those of you who want to play Tyrod Taylor is why? What does playing 35-year-old Tyrod Taylor accomplish? You know what Tyrod is. He's a guy that is a quality backup quarterback. What does benching Aaron Rodgers accomplish for the Jets? Trying to embarrass a Hall of Famer on the way out? We know he's not what he once was. We all have eyes. We all know the Jets have been a disaster this year. But why make this season more of a bleep show by causing that much drama and attention that benching a 4-time MVP would cause? If Rodgers says he's healthy, which he does, and he's not on the injury report, and he wants to play, let him play. If he's hurt, that's a different story. But he's telling everyone he's healthy. The Jets are saying he's healthy. What does benching Aaron Rodgers accomplish for the Jets? The Jet fans who are angry and want to blame him, you get your pound of flesh that he's benched? Great. Who cares? You really want to win games, by the way? Like if you play Tyrod Taylor and he provides a spark and you start winning games and you mess up your draft position, what does that do? If you win games with Rodgers, fine, so be it. But what does playing Tyrod accomplish? What if Tyrod then gets hurt and all of a sudden you want him to be your bridge quarterback next year? And guess what? He's spending all offseason rehabbing instead of learning a new offense when a new coaching staff comes in. What's the point of that? If Rodgers wants to play, just play him. I don't see any benefit in embarrassing the guy and sitting him with 5 games to go. It would be different if the Jets had a young quarterback they could plug in and get some reps and evaluate what they have. I know what Tyrod Taylor is. See, if Jordan Travis, the Jets' 5th-round rookie quarterback from Florida State, was healthy, play Jordan Travis. Why not? But 35-year-old Tyrod Taylor doesn't need to play over Aaron Rodgers if he's healthy. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand the rationale of trying to make the season even more of a bleep show than it's already been by causing the headline attention story of benching the Hall of Fame quarterback who might very well be forced to retire at the end of this year. I don't see the benefit. I don't know why the Jets would do that. I'm glad they're not. It makes no sense to me. Benching Aaron Rodgers only causes more drama in a year full of drama for the Jets. There's no point. If you had a young rookie that you could play, fine. But Tyrod Taylor, who might be the starter next year because he's under contract, is the bridge. What are we talking about? Silly. The whole thing is just stupid. Some other things I want to hit on here. How classic was that Jameis Winston game last night? My God. You talk about Jameis Winston being Jameis Winston. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, including 2 of them that were pick sixes. 1 with the game on the line late. And he threw for 500 yards. Jameis, man. He's fun to watch when he's not your team's quarterback. He's fun to watch when you can just sit back and enjoy the roller coaster ride. I'd imagine it will drive you nuts if he's your team's quarterback. Now, I know he provided a spark in Cleveland, and that's fun, but the Browns aren't going anywhere with Jameis Winston. That we know. He gave you a nice moment when he beat Pittsburgh a couple Thursdays ago, but come on. But that was fun last night. Also, stick a fork in the Niners. They're dead. It's just one of those years. Ton of injuries, tough schedule, things kind of snowballed. That happens. It's why it's so hard to be good year after year after year. And you look at the core of the Niners, a lot of older players. This might have been their last year with this core to make a run for it. Now you got to pay Brock Purdy. What do you give him? What do you give Brock Purdy? What type of contract do you give him? Some other thoughts I had watching some of the games. I know everyone talks about the Detroit Lions being the best team in the NFL, best team in the NFC. I think we got to start showing the Eagles some respect. Philadelphia is really good. Unlike last year when they collapsed after a hot start, this year they started slow and they're getting better as the year goes on. Right now you watch Philly play, they're just as good as Detroit in my opinion. Saquon really has made all the difference. To me, and I don't have a vote, he'd get my MVP vote. Now I think Josh Allen's going to win the award because he's a quarterback and it's just impossible seemingly for running backs to win that award. But man, has Saquon been great for Philadelphia. So just, watching what he did against the Ravens, having a quiet game, and then boom, that huge run to put him away. That's what MVPs do. Some of the other thoughts I had from the games this weekend, man, is the NFC South so mediocre. Tampa, I know they got injuries, but struggling to get by Carolina. Bryce Young, he's been better, give him credit. But that division stinks. Kirk Cousins not playing well off the Achilles. They're 6-6. Tampa's 6-6. New Orleans not any good at 4-8. Carolina, we know they're not good, 3-9. That division stinks. Wouldn't it be nice to have the team you root for play in the NFC South? You'd have a chance every year. Every year. Some other thoughts I had watching the games over the weekend. Pittsburgh's for real. Russell Wilson's turned back the clock. Tomlin's got him playing great football. I mean, look, Pittsburgh's defense got gashed by Joe Burrow. You don't see that very often, but it still didn't matter. I mean, what Pittsburgh does every year. Another winning season for Tomlin, of course. They're 9-3. Everyone talks about Baltimore. Pittsburgh's already beaten Baltimore. And Lamar Jackson struggles against Pittsburgh. He struggles against Kansas City. We talk about Buffalo and KC, and then people talk about the Ravens. Why not Pittsburgh? When do we start showing respect to the Steelers and what Mike Tomlin has done? Pittsburgh, to me, is every bit a championship contender in the conference as some of these other teams. So I want to give some love to the Steelers. I feel like they're still not being talked enough about as a legit championship contender. I mean, what Russell Wilson's done, crazy. Absolutely crazy. Been a wild year in the NFL. It always is. And we still got 5 games left, baby. 5. So I'll ask the people watching the Jake Asman Football Show, if the season were to end today, who's getting your MVP vote? For me, it's Saquon, even though Josh Allen remains the betting favorite over at BetUS. It's been that type of year. If a running back can't get it this year, to what Saquon's doing, when he's on pace, I believe, to still break the NFL rushing record. Come on now. I want to thank everyone who tuned in to the Jake Asman Football Show. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, that helps us continue to grow. Reminder to join BetUS if you plan on betting on any of the NFL games this upcoming weekend. The game on Thursday night, of course. Basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, they have it all. Shout out to BetUS for being our presenting sponsor. My name is Jake Asman. This has been the Jake Asman Football Show. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.